Welcome to the County Business Talks podcast, powered by Picture Book Films. Here, we're going to be talking to entrepreneurs and business owners from across Sussex, delving into the mindsets of what makes them really tick. Welcome to another episode of the County Business Talks podcast. My guest today has had a successful career as a pioneering entrepreneurial pharmacist for over 40 years. He founded Ashtons Late Night Pharmacy before going on to start Ashtons Hospital Pharmacy Services, which he exited via management buyout in March 2020. At the time of the sale, the business was responsible for providing pharmacy services to 70% of independent mental health hospitals in the UK. During his career, he has also pioneered the late night pharmacy concept from Ashtons in 7 Dials, was awarded the Millennium Award for Innovation by Tony Blair for his development of easy-to-use blister pack for patients, and he was the first to bring the US-style closed-shop pharmacies to the UK. He's also developed and launched a successful medicine management and e-prescribing software that puts his former business at the forefront of the medtech revolution. Since exiting the business, he continues to seek opportunities in the local business community. I'm delighted today to be welcomed Laurence Sprey to the podcast. Laurence, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Good morning.
Listen, great to have you here. Thanks so much for coming on. Look, as always, we're just going to delve straight into the podcast. Just want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and the business journey, where it all started.
Where did it all start? Well, I'm a pharmacist by profession. I was a pharmacist. I'm not anymore, but I qualified as a pharmacist in Brighton, 1973 to 76. And I did pharmacy because I wanted to combine a profession with a business. I always wanted to be in business since I was very young, but it was obviously what business would I do? Yeah. And so my first business was a pharmacy in Portslade called SF George Limited, and then I moved on to Ashtons. So it started in Brighton in the late 70s. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And obviously, so you studied pharmacy at university, but like that entrepreneurial spirit you said, you just said just then that you'd always sort of wanted to run your own business. Where does that entrepreneurial spirit come from?
I don't know where it comes from, but I was brought up in North London, Southgate, Winchmore Hill, around there, and my father was in business for many years, but it's on a smaller scale. But I had very many successful uncles and relations who were all in the business, various businesses. And one of my uncles was a pharmacist, and he opened the first late night pharmacy in London. Must be 50, 60 years ago. When those days, nothing was open past 5 o'clock. People closed for lunch. Yeah. People closed on Saturday afternoons and Sundays. So to find a pharmacy open in the centre of London on a Saturday night was queuing around the block. And I saw him, and I thought, I wouldn't mind doing that. And so that's what gave me one of the ideas of doing pharmacy and running it as a business as well.
Right. And so I guess like you say, I suppose being exposed to that at a young age, be it like you say, many family members, obviously your dad as well, maybe not at the sort of level you have, but just being around that sort of entrepreneurialism and business owners.
I was always entrepreneurial as a kid. I don't know where it's come from. It comes from the family. There's always an influence, isn't it? Influences you. But I always wanted to do my own business. I wasn't interested in working for the corporate world. Although I trained with Boots, I couldn't wait to get out the door, and I was happy to. I wasn't, I did not want to work hard for them. I wanted to work hard for myself, and that's one thing. Entrepreneurs, they say, are born, they're not made. I read that somewhere recently. I think it's true. As a young age, when I was 12, 13, one of my neighbours used to manufacture ties for Marks and Spencer's, and I used to buy the rejects off him and sell them. I used to have a car cleaning business. I thought, actually, I used to clean cars on a Sunday or Saturday. I made more money than I had friends who worked all week. And so we said, do that. So I like the tie business. I used to do really well selling reject ties.
I love stories like that with people from, like you say, from I guess, because I sort of look back at some of the things done little bits and pieces in around school, and like you said, even little jobs you had. I was never shy of work. I was always happy to work, go out there and graft, because I'd want to get the pound note in front of the next person.
Absolutely.
And I guess that sort of work ethic, I guess, like, just having that from a young age, and that obviously holds you in good stead for running your own business, because that can be tough, and obviously you've got to put the hours in and sacrifice and stuff over the years. But I want to chat about, obviously, running and growing a business as you have for sort of over 35 years. You'd have been through, obviously, like many ups and downs, but can you tell me about some of the toughest times and what sort of challenges you faced, and any failures, and what your sort of relationship like with failure and what that looks like?
First of all, I was never afraid to fail. Didn't worry me. I didn't lose sleep over it. Yeah. When you say what was the biggest challenges, I read a book recently recommended by my youngest son Josh called The Shoe Dog. It's a story of the guy who founded Nike. Yeah. And his biggest issue was cash. He couldn't borrow money. They would not give him money. Yeah. And I suppose one of my biggest problems was money, really, with cash. Yeah. It was hard to raise money. Yeah. And, sometimes you lay awake at night maybe thinking, how can I pay the tax bill? How can I pay this? And that was really the balancing of, we never really had enough cash. Yeah. One of the reasons we didn't have enough cash was probably my own fault, because I used to take too much out, and sometimes that's that balance.
Yeah, sure.
Of actually, if you don't take it, I know people I know run businesses don't pay themselves any money, and they have a lot of money in the bank. I always the other way around. I sort of like to take the money out if I could properly, but sometimes it might leave the business a bit short on cash. So it was always a fine balance and an interesting discussion with the bank.
Yeah, I'm sure. I find that, because failure is something I sort of talk about a lot on here, and I think as entrepreneurs, as business owners, generally, like, you've got to have a little bit of no fear of failure, because otherwise you don't take risks. I guess, like, I learned a lot. I think me and you sort of spoke briefly offline and stuff about it. Obviously, I had a salon that didn't work out, that failed. But learned so much from that. Didn't stop me from immediately wanting to go out and start another business or be involved in. Just because ultimately, I guess, I look at life as an opportunity, and anything that you do, that is an experience, whatever that looks like. If it's successful, great. If it's not, and you just learn from that and try and not make them mistakes. So I find that really interesting about just right from the start, like from the first point of it, going, I'm not feared. I've not got a fear.
But you can't. I was never afraid of failure. It didn't worry me. Yeah. I wanted to fail. Don't get me wrong. I didn't want to fail, but as long as you learn from failures. If you haven't failed, you won't win. Yeah. You've got to fail. And in business, you can't win all the time. Yeah. You try. I had lots of different things I was doing in business. Some of them worked. Some of them didn't. Yeah. The thing is, knowing that's not working. Let's not do that anymore. And I think the other key word in business that I learned later on was focus. Focus on what you're good at. Sure. Don't try. Sometimes I look at a van driving around Brighton, and you get this guy says he does everything. I do the electrics, I do the plumbing. Actually, they don't. Yeah. They don't do everything. You want people who specialise, and that's what we. In the end, when it became very successful with the hospital business, it's because we just focused on that mental health, as you said in the opening introduction. Sure. We focused on mental health, and we became very good at it. Yeah. And people came to us. And 70% of the independent mental health hospitals used us. There was a reason for that, because we were good.
Amazing.
And we were you don't go to the plumber for a toothache, do you? You go to the dentist, and and that's what we did. We focused on what we were good at, and we became better and better and better.
Right. And so you said about obviously with your kids and stuff. Do you allow them to fail? Do you encourage them to fail? What is there? How are you with them as a parent?
They all worked hard at school, and they've all done okay. I'm careful. I'm choosing my words very carefully here, because it's going to be broadcast. But they've all come from a very comfortable background. I don't think it makes them as hungry as I was. Yeah, sure. And that's the thing. I'll sort of leave it at that.
Yeah, sure. Because I guess that's the thing. It's similar. That hunger that you've got as a. But was that hunger for you? Was that about was that money motivated, or was it just that you wanted to, like, I'm going to I just want to run a successful business? And what was the main driver for you as a entrepreneur?
When I was at school, 12, 13, 14, when I was doing, I don't think I've told this story, I was obviously thinking about the questions you might ask me for this interview. I thought about what you might ask, and I thought, where did it start? And it actually started in the school assembly. So when the school assembly, thousands of people in the school assembly, and we're all saying the school prayer, I quite often would say the prayer to myself that I wanted to be healthy, successful, and wealthy. Nearly every day. And I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be successful for sure, and I wanted to be wealthy. Wow,
and that sense of, I guess, like you say, that's interesting that you like that affirmation, like saying that to yourself on a daily basis, and because ultimately one thing I think I've learned, certainly from the people I've spoke to on the podcast, and I guess me and my journey over the last sort of 12 years of running businesses, is that ultimately that self-belief that you do believe in yourself above all things, that you're going to achieve that success.
I don't think you ever really believe it, really. I didn't think I was successful. It was only actually when I eventually made the exit, I thought, and they said, when they made a little speech when we signed the deal, I thought, actually, maybe not too bad. But I never looked at myself as being successful or whatever. I was just trying to stay humble and down to earth, and and to have a sort of down to earth approach to what we were doing.
That's really interesting, because I guess then, because over that period, like you said, you've got to a point where you've sold your business, and for good money, made really good money. So that would, I guess, other people look at that as well and go, how successful you've been. But you're saying over that period, like 30 odd, 40 years of running that, during that time, you wouldn't, even as the business grew and you got more money, and you wouldn't deem yourself as successful.
Because there was always somebody doing better than you, isn't there? If you look around, there's always somebody with a bigger car or a bigger house. So I never thought to myself, as I was always pushing for more.
Yeah. And that's in your head. Did you have a vision? Like, was it always that I'm gonna start this business, and thought, and I'm gonna get it to a point, and I'm gonna sell it, and I'm gonna make lots of money? Was that?
I didn't. No.
What?
I loved running my business, and the businesses are, the thing with businesses, you've got to remember one thing: it changes. It's a very dynamic process, and you can't do the same thing each year out. You've got to keep changing and evolving. And so I thought to myself, I had a late night pharmacy, and when I opened my late night pharmacy, on 1st of August 1984, I was shocked really how successful it was, because sometimes, like these times when there was a flu epidemic, there'd be queues around the block at the Seven Dials, Brighton. Sure. And so we were open to 10 o'clock, and people were rushing in at 10 to 10, panicking, we need the Calpol for the kid, we need whatever it may be. We were nearly one of the only pharmacies open in the south of England, so people came from all over the place. Wow. Now, of course, as time went on, everyone's open late. Every man and their dog is open to all hours, Sure. And so that business changed, and so I started to look for something else. Eventually the business wasn't as well. So business, I find, are very dynamic. They're changing all the time. You got to keep changing on a very regular basis to keep adjusting to the market.
Sure. And I guess, like you say, you've got to be open to that. Like, you can't be single-minded and go, well, this is my business, and this is, because how many business people are like that? Or I've got this business, it's been really successful to this stage, and then competitors coming. Well, I guess the like, you look at things like Blockbuster, video and stuff like that. Well, no one's ever going to watch stuff online, and then Netflix is, through the roof, and no, you wouldn't open a Blockbuster now, So that's really interesting to think that. I think, like you say, you've got to constantly be looking.
And
at
Blockbuster,
how you
I think I read that Blockbuster could have bought Netflix or something.
They
turned it down, said no, it never worked.
Yes.
My other analogy is this. The iPhone, I think it's 10, 12 years old. 10, 12 years ago, we were all using Nokia, and we were all using Blackberries. And then this guy came up called Steve Jobs. He said, I'm going to revolutionise the phone. Yeah. And of course, No one talks about Nokia anymore. Yeah. No one talks about the Nokia. If you see a Nokia now, it's like, well, it's vintage.
Yeah.
It's antique.
No, well, you're right. My first phone was a Nokia, exactly that. Nokia 83. Yeah. And you're right. And I guess that's where people like Steve Jobs' innovation and that. And you've got to, I guess, like you say, as a business owner, entrepreneur, you've got to constantly be innovating, constantly be thinking about new ideas, because you've got to adapt, or you're not going to survive. I guess in that
I think it's a very dynamic process, as I put it, and it's changing all the time. Yeah. And remember one thing: businesses don't last forever. Yeah. Some of the great businesses that have gone down, and they don't last forever.
Yeah, sure. Cool. Look, I want to move on. Again, this is something that I always delve into on the podcast. We talk about culture. Again, I know we sort of briefly spoke about it offline. I said, I struggled, I think, when I run the salon to try and create a culture in there, like a winning culture. But so talk to me a little bit about the culture you created at Ashtons and what it was like with the team there, how that grew to, and did over the years. Obviously, again, things changed so much. But was that culture? Did that change with it, or did you have a culture at the beginning that sort of stemmed all the way through the journey?
I quite often have looked at businesses and shocked at the way people talk to them. I believe that whatever the culture of a business is, it starts at the very top. It starts with the boss and it works its way down. And so the culture I try to create was, one of the things is people don't say thank you. When people do a good job, walk round. I used to walk round, not every day, but walk round at my facility with 100 staff, say good morning to everyone. Quite often, you see directors or bosses walk in their offices, don't say anything to anyone, walk in, shut the door, and then shout for a cup of tea. You know what I mean? And I always said thank you to the staff. Yeah. Thank you for your hard work; it's appreciated. And it's not always about the money. And quite often people said to me, "You know what, Laurence? We've had the managers work for me, and they said, we worked our asses off for that. We worked to midnight, and he never even said thank you. And so I believe the culture begins at the top. I treated people with respect, with compassion, looked after people as much as I could, you know what I mean? And as a result of that, I look back, some of my directors, one of the guys I worked with me for 35 years, one guy worked for 30 years, one guy's there for 25 years. And I used to have a Christmas party every year. Even from the very first day, we had like 4 people around the table. We had a Christmas party and everyone was expected to attend, because I think it's only once in a year, because people all over the country could all get together. And I could say to the staff, thank you for your hard work, it's appreciated. And also, we recognise staff for their achievements in front of their peers. So like everyone likes to be acknowledged in front of their peers. This is Martin, he's been with me 30 years, here's your gold pen, thank you very much. And you remember when we started, and all people have been there 5 years, 10 years, and we acknowledge that. We always bought people a very nice pen if they've been there 10 years. People who passed exams, people who got married, had babies, we'd acknowledge them in a speech I would do to the staff every year at the Christmas party.
That's amazing, and I think, especially like starting, back in the 80s and starting a business and being around that, I think. I do think the narrative's changing slightly, but I think you go back to that period and the narrative very much like, I think, to be successful in business, you've got to be this ruthless person.
No, not at all.
And I personally, I don't buy into that narrative, but I think that was something that was in the past. And I think what's refreshing, I guess, and great to hear is that for even back starting a business back then, that's been all the way through. Because ultimately, you haven't got to be, I guess, an arsehole
no, absolutely not. You don't win that way
as a leader. Of course not. You just want, if you're a nice person and a good person, you want to treat people how you want to be treated, I guess.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I remember, I know you're going to touch on it a bit later. I went to the States because at one point we copied an American model, which I know you're going to talk about later. I went to this lecture in Boston. This is a guy said, how to win business here. I'm going to go to that. And I sat at the front, and this guy spoke brilliantly, and he said, don't forget to thank them for the business. don't forget. And so many people do not do that. I always, I had people spending a lot of money with you or not on money. I used to say every year, I said, every client a Christmas card, thank you for your business, it's appreciated. And it's so many lawyers, accountants, and some of the biggest firms we used to spend money with. Not once do they send you a Christmas card to say thank you for the business. And it's, little things like that, it goes a long way.
And I tell you what I'm getting as well, and what I can take from what you've said about culture, I guess, in general, but not just the culture that you create with your staff that there, but then the culture that you lead, that level of communication, that level of appreciation for staff, clients, everyone, that filters that's what I get from obviously speaking to you on a couple of occasions I have, that you are appreciative and grateful for one, their staff-wise hard work.
And people like to be part of a winning team. They like to be. Everyone likes to be part of a successful football team. Yeah. Part of a team, and we were good at what we did. And we hope what we try to do is we called it a magnet for talent. We try to attract people into the business, and to attract good people into the business is tough because people now look you up. What people say about you. Yeah. So I think it's the cult. It's a very good question, and I do see cultures. I look at companies. I'm very happy and trigger happy sometimes to write letters of complaint to companies that I just don't think perform well.
That's I think you're right, and I think because you use a sort of football analogy, but I think you're right. People want to be, but how do you create that winning team? And you go, right, okay, I'm going to do, and there's certain things that you've sort of alluded to there, but you've got I guess. You look at someone like Alex Ferguson and what he achieved at Manchester United and that period.
And Alex Ferguson said, build the team, build the dream. Yeah. And it's so true. Whether it's the football, I love the football analogies, the sporting analogies, absolutely. Because, it's winning and, we all want to be part of a winning team.
Yeah, no, I love that. Okay. I want to talk, obviously, as like you said, we touched on success, but you have achieved great success, and you obviously got to grown a business to what you did and sold it for you. But looking back, what would you say for you has been your greatest achievement or a sort of career highlight? Could you?
Many, but one that sticks out in my mind is we doubled the business overnight. So we looked after private hospitals, which is the biggest mental health provider in the UK, one of our clients for a long time. Yeah. We started with one hospital with them many years ago, and we eventually took on all their business, bit by bit. You win it. You don't give it to you. You win it because they trust you. And they bought something. They bought another company, and they said to us, we want you to take on 40 hospitals in a year. Can you do it? We said, oh, yes, of course we can. Then you get out of the meeting and say, how are we going to bloody do that? How are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? And we had 7 months to get it organised. Had to go to the bank, get some money to buy more stock. We had to employ staff. We had to get more phone lines. Yeah. We had to get things in place. We brought a consultant in to help organise it all, the business plan. Yeah. And on the 6th of August, a few years ago, we pushed the button and we took on another 40 hospitals. It was wonderful. You could see the sales going through the roof. Wow. And it took a lot of work, a lot of organisation. And Priory said to us, well done, guys. We weren't sure, but you did a great job. And I think also the investors who bought Ashtons were impressed as well, because I said, this is what we did. And we grew the business. We doubled it overnight. And growing a business, growth is painful. Yeah, sure. So we had to think of everything to make sure that when we pushed the button on that day, that it didn't collapse, that we could cope.
Because I guess as well, because generally with business growth, it's more, over a longer period of time, and you grow steadily, as you probably have done over the years. You grow a little bit on each year. You want to 5-10%, and you're growing and growing and growing. But to have that opportunity,
we nearly doubled it overnight. They gave us a large emphasis because. They had the business with someone else, and a major pharmacy provider in the UK, and they said, well, unless you do it this way, we're not going to do it. And they said, no, fine, we'll go to Ashtons, and we'll ask for them. And then we said, yes, of course we can do it. I love that bit. I love it. I take on business, and I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but we found a way to do it.
But I love that. What is it then that for you, because how many people would maybe have sat in your position and not had the balls to go, looked at that and gone, I don't know how we're going to do. Yeah, well, we'll come back to you maybe, and we'll put a plan together. We'll come back to you.
We said we can do it for you. Don't worry. But we had time to get things organised. If you said, can you do it tomorrow? It might be a different thing. But we had 6-7 months, and we were planning, and it was a very exciting time, and everyone comes together around the table, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But we did it successfully. That's probably my biggest success with running Ashtons Hospital, overnight.
Wow. That's such a
nice
problem.
By the way, it's a nice problem to have.
Yeah, I'm sure. They're the sort of meetings you want to sit in and have that opportunity put in front of you and going. But it's still, like I say, I guess it's still down to you to go, we can do it. I'll figure it out afterwards, but
I was confident we could do it. I thought, it's just more of the same, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not like you're saying something, it's more of the same.
The numbers go, like you say, you just get in the right
just another naught.
Yeah. Brilliant. Right, I want to, again, it's something that we always touch on. Again, running a business, sort of said over the years, there's ups and downs, and there's, it can be tough. I've experienced some tough periods, but obviously there are successes. But what that obviously comes, that success, especially to the level that you've achieved, obviously comes with some sacrifices. But can you just look at looking back over the last sort of 40 years? Type of work-life balance. Did you have a work-life balance? Did that work well?
Okay, well, I have a wife and 4 children. Same wife for 42 years, been married to Helen, and I made lots of sacrifices. I worked 7 days a week. Yeah. I worked every night, more or less. I worked at weekends, not all the time, but yes, I did miss school plays. I missed some sports days. And I said to my answer was that I quite like this lifestyle. If we want to do it, there has to be sacrifices. So yes, you have to make sacrifices. Yeah. There's no easy way. Yeah. There's no easy. If you want to work 9 to 5, then work 9 to 5. Yeah. But if you want to, when you're running your own business, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yeah. And if you're not actually physically at the office or whatever, I always had an office at home, and I'd always be doing bits and pieces, not all night, but quite often come home, do my emails, do bits and pieces, and so I'm ready for the next working day. But there are sacrifices for sure.
Did you find it like, again, I probably know the answer to this, but because I guess I'm fairly similar, but it's the you can't. I find it really difficult to switch off. I think as a business owner, you don't ever really switch off. And I speak to a lot of people on here who have come on and they've sort of spoke about mental health and like how important it is to take time out and do. I just find, I guess part of me, I love the businesses that I'm involved in and I do. So I like spinning plates and being busy and doing what I do. So I don't necessarily see it so much as a sacrifice because I enjoy it, and I think you've alluded to that as well. You enjoyed the journey, and
I loved it. I didn't like it. I loved it.
Yeah.
I love being in business. I love that. I like shouting down the phone at organising things, taking phone calls, whatever. But I try to.
Did you switch off though? Did you have
not
times
often?
where you
not
could...
often. I play tennis. I find that very relaxing. Get switched off. I'm a big tennis fan. Yeah. Go out with the family, do things. I've always had a busy life, which I wanted, and also I took regular holidays. Every 2 or 3 months I try to go away and do something. And
when you was out of that, so if you did,
no, the phone was still on.
Wow,
you can't. People, you can't. I can't stand it. People. I never said to stuff, don't say I'm on holiday. Just say he's out of the office. Can I help you? Yeah. I'm not sitting on the beach in Barbados or whatever I'm doing. Yeah. So I don't know, but so people know my business. But of course, you're looking at your phone. Someone says, "By the way, do you want to double the business?" They say, "Well, I'll get back to you in 2 weeks when I get back from holiday." I never ever had an out of office on my emails or whatever. Yeah. So if I needed to, I do a couple of hours work in the morning and go and sit on the beach.
Yeah. See, and then that
but
for me, I guess is a.
But if you can do a good deal, if you're sitting on the beach, you can do a bit of a deal when you're on holiday. It makes you feel even better. So actually, go, I can have a drink now.
Yeah. And I guess that's the point I was gonna make. That look, what does that work-life balance is such a strange concept, I guess, in a way, because people go, well, work-life balance. Yeah, that means that you've got to work. Only a few hours a day and 4-day weeks and stuff like that. But ultimately, surely you perhaps had that right in some way, because the fact, look, I'm away. I have these regular breaks. I am away from the business. I'm not on my phone 9-10 hours a day when I'm on the beach, but I do a couple of hours here. I make sure I dip in and out, and I'm making sure that I'm on top of things. Because I've always done, like, last 12 years, I go any time I've been on holiday. My wife always says to me, "You always take your laptop. Why do you?" I said, "Well, because if I get up before everyone else is up and I'll do a couple of hours and I'll keep on top of things, I can relax the rest of the day because I know I'm on top of stuff. For me to go away and go, well, I've got 2 weeks and then I'm going to go back and open my emails and see all the stuff, just couldn't. I can't do that.
That's the other thing. I couldn't face going back to piles of stuff. It takes you a week or two to catch up. I'd rather do things. You're not replying to things in detail. You're saying you're saying yes or no.
One thing, only just because obviously spoke about with other people, but I guess looking back though, you say about like I did sacrifice and I missed, school plays and stuff. Like, is there an element of any form of regret for that? Looking back and going, I wish I'd been a bit more present at them times, or
sometimes, not often.
Yeah.
I was happy to make the sacrifice. That's the truth. I was happy to make the sacrifice.
Yeah. And I guess then there's the flip side to that, isn't there? The fact that you have made some sacrifices, but you have created I'm assuming, a very nice life for you and your family and the kids.
I think so. For my children and my family, they have a comfortable lifestyle as a result of that.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Right. So I just want to obviously. So this is something I'm really fascinated about, because I guess you're probably the first person to come on the podcast actually that has got to a stage where most of the people I've interviewed and I've spoke to still running their business, they're still in it and stuff, but you've obviously got to that stage, you've sold your business, and there's obviously when you got to that point, it was back last year, obviously 2020, did you get to that point and there was that sense of sort of achievement and fulfillment at that point? Did you get to, I've done it, I've sat back and I've achieved what I'd set out to achieve? Was there that sense of it, or?
Not really. Look, I'm 68, so I've been in business a long time, and I knew I had to sell the business one day, and you just can't sell businesses tomorrow. There's a lot of planning and housekeeping that goes to selling a business. There's a lot of work. So we had a plan, and it started really many years ago when I started. As the businesses grow, you start to show above the radar. So then you start being approached by typically private equity who say, we're looking at healthcare and can we come and talk to you? And I spoke to a couple of them. I thought, interesting, because they some of these private equity companies have sold businesses in a parallel market like the dental market. But I saw what they did. I thought, well, they bought it for this and sold it for that. So actually, you know what, I'd do that myself a bit more. And we also got lucky when we doubled the business overnight. So when we sold it, it was just turning over just under 20 million.
Wow.
With 100 odd staff. And, that's a very attractive business for most mid-market private equity companies.
Yeah, sure.
So we were, and I had decided 3, 4, 5 years before I sold it, I need to get things ready, get my ducks in a row to sell it, whether I pushed the button or not. And I'd employed a company called EMC that to help me get the business ready and to sell it. And they did a great job. And obviously it's hard to push the button.
Yeah, sure.
And then people start talking to you. And the other directors, and I set things up that the other directors were going to buy me out in reality, and they were going to continue to run the business. So, and I was going to retire. That was my story. I was going to retire from the business because quite often the private equity want you to stay on. And so, can you do it? I said, no, I'm out. I'm retiring. You don't want me here. You've got a great team there. You can run with them. So when I sold it, I was very sad actually. And the thing for me, the thing I took was the money. I took the money.
Yeah, sure.
And I put the money in the bank, and that was my sense of achievement, really. Do I miss the business? Yes. Do I miss the hustle and the bustle of business? Yes. Do I miss the clients? Yes. Do I miss the staff that I'd worked with for many years? Yes.
Wow, that's really this is what I find fascinating. That's why I was so delighted when you'd agreed to come on, because I think for me, I've read a few books recently, and I look at myself and always chasing, you're following this. I'm going to get to that stage of what you want to try and achieve and what success looks like and how much money potentially you'll earn if you sell a business and grow it to that stage. But again, it's back to that thing. I think my mindset's changed slightly over the last couple of years. I'm probably more ambitious than I've ever been, but for different potentially different reasons. It's not that I'm trying to get to some destination now, which is like, because in my head a few years back it was like, I want to get to your position. I want to get to a place where I've grown a business that is worth turning over 20 million, and I can sell it, and I can sit back and go, I've achieved this thing. For me, you'll get to that stage and go, what am I going to just stop now? And I've not done like. I think is really resonates. You go, because ultimately you're, like you said, from a young age, you've always, and I'm sure, like we've spoken a little bit offline, you can tell that your brain is still working, looking at other investments maybe, and because ultimately that doesn't stop, does it? You don't sell that and go, you know.
So the thing is, it's interesting when you're running a business, everyone's ringing you. When you sold it, and even though you put the money in the bank, the phone stops ringing, and you're not important anymore. No one wants to talk to you because you've got nothing they want. Sure. And I remember meeting this architect in Germany a few years ago, and he was quite a prominent architect, and he retired quite young. And he said, "How do you feel about retirement?" He said, "I'm not important anymore. I'm just helping my girlfriend do the rubbish." So I said to my wife, "Look at my diary; it's empty." He said, "When you sell, like for me, selling a successful business, it's a huge period of adjustment.
Yeah, sure.
For both for your family and for you.
Yeah. No.
And do you rush into another one business? Not really. Not rush. And you've got a bit more time on your hands. And and obviously with COVID, we weren't able to travel.
Yeah, sure.
So we haven't been able to travel for nearly, near enough 2 years.
And I guess that's part. Like I guess in essence, you get to, especially like you say, you sort of come to retirement age anyway. You get to a point where you go, you know what, I've worked very hard for a long period of time, and I've taken the reward of financially, and I'm in the position, like you say, I guess you want to be in, you can go and sit on the beach without having to think about anything else, and relax and unwind and do that thing, which I guess you haven't been able to. And I guess the other part of it is the fact that it's your baby, isn't it? You've grown something from, like you said, that first Christmas party with 4 staff around the table to 100 staff by the end of it, turning over 20 million, and like, what an amazing journey. What I think is really inspiring about listening to you talk and how you talk about even the success or however that looks, is that you can tell that you love the journey.
The journey much more interesting than the destination. Where people say it's so true. Building a business was very rewarding. Whether you're an architect, you're building a big building, or whatever you building. I found building the business from it all, and it's a struggle because you're all the time you're thinking, well, how can I do this, and how do we get around that? And as you grow the business, you've got different challenges. As the business grows from a 1 million to a 2 million to a 4 million, it's different challenges, and all the challenges of thinking, how do we do that now? And what do we do here? And we bring other people in. So now we need an HR manager. We never had one before. And then we need someone to look after the IT, the computers. So building the business is being very satisfying. That's. And
I guess it's that hustle, isn't it? Right from I'm going to buy tyres and I'm going to sell them, to the pharmacy, to $500,000 turnover to 10 million turnover. All of those bits in between. It's still the hustle. From the time, it's still the same sort of.
You're always knocking on doors, and and when you all of a sudden, the more doors you knock on, the luckier you get. And when people start, phoning you to give you oh, I used to work here. Do you think you can come and help me? Yeah, it was great. It was very rewarding. Not just for the financial. The financial thing is secondary, because with success comes the money.
It's a
for
byproduct
sure. It's a byproduct of success. But that it was always the trying to do things well and professionally. It's often you see a well-run business. You think, oh, that's you might be somewhere, wherever you are in the world, or whatever you're doing. That's a well-run business. Look at that. They got it. They know what they're doing. Not often you see that.
No. I'm sure. That's But what was you? I know we sort of touched. I just wanted a little bit more. Was the money never? Was the money a driver for you or not?
Yeah, I always wanted. I mean, I'd always made money from the first day I opened my late night pharmacy in '84. It was a successful business, and even those days it was making very good money. And I, brought up 4 children, and they, all went to public school, etc. So, the money was. Don't get me wrong. People say money's a dirty word. It's not. The money was important to me.
Yeah, sure.
And that was a driver for me for sure.
Right,
to earn a bit more money each year.
Yeah. Okay. But actually, just before I move on, I do want to say although the money is a driver for you, this is what I find it really interesting. Money is a driver, and similar as it has been for me in the past. Money is the driver for you. But then, when you got to that place where you did sell it and that financial reward was there, like you said, that wasn't the bit. You almost describe it as a little bit of an anticlimax.
It is an anticlimax
because it's although you think, that's my driver, I'm going to get a great £20 million turnover business that's, I'm going to sell for X million and do what we've done. That is it. I've got to that point, but that's the anticlimax, and that's where I fight, and almost, I guess, a conflict in part. There's got to be a little bit of a drive of wanting to get more money, but you get to that point at the end, and there's an anticlimax because I've made the money that I'd set out to achieve, or more than I've ever set out to achieve, but that's not what's made me happy. What actually made me happy. It made me happy.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want to lie to you. I'm quite happy. But I'm in a privileged position that, at the moment, and the most important thing is really now to stay healthy and to enjoy life. And I'm looking to do something else, not full time, but I'm looking to do for the right opportunity, something that I would enjoy. Yeah. I think I've got something to give. Yeah, lots of years of experience in business, and and being successful, if you're making a profit each year and the profit is better than in the year before, you're successful. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, look, that leads us perfectly onto the last. We're sort of coming towards it, and it leads us perfectly onto the last sort of question, really, before the quick fire ones. Is what does the future hold for Laurence Sprey?
Well, one of the best bits of advice I had was from Nick at EMC. He said, whatever you do, why don't you just get an office away from home? And I set up an office in Hove, which you've been to.
Yeah, of course, And
really nice, I'm in there once or twice a week, and it's a sort of been a saviour for me. I look forward to going in. I have Nikki, my PA, who works with me. And I'm still half busy. I'm half busy, and I'm looking at things every month. Lots of things coming across my desk, but as people know, I'm looking. I've all said no to all of them at the moment for various reasons. And the biggest reason is that if you look at these angel groups, I just can't reconcile the valuations. They think a business making no money is worth 10 million. So actually, it's not. If you go to the people who bought my business at Lloyd's Development Capital, one of the biggest private equity firms, they'll tell you to get lost. Sure. I don't know how people. It's the valuations. Yeah. So, but I'm anyone out there looking for some help, or whether I'd be interested. And in the meantime, I'm still looking. I've got other things going on. Other investments. I
think it's nice to, like you say, just to be in that almost like you worked very hard over a long period of time to get yourself in a very privileged position that you are sitting there, and to have and just because, like I said, I think what I love about it is that, and I guess I'm putting myself how I'm going to maybe be in 20 years' time. Yeah. You get to that position, and you sort of think, I'd love to get to that position where you've financially secure, but have them opportunity. Because I still look at us. I guess without that financial security at the moment, I still look at life as an opportunity, and I still think, like, if something comes up, I like that's and I think if you're open to that, which as an entrepreneur, and you have been over the years, like you said, go back to that meeting. What can you do this? Yeah, I can deliver that. No problem. We'll turn that around 100%, and that doubles your business just because you've got that open attitude towards growth, a growth mindset, which is something I talk about on the podcast a lot. But
growth mindset. Interesting.
Yeah. I guess that's just a natural thing within inside you, that you've just got a growth mindset that you constantly look at it and go, that is an opportunity. And like you said, and what's nice as well, you're in that position right now that the next thing you do invest in, or whether you do or not, but you'll look at opportunities and it'll be the right one for you because you haven't got to rush into it.
I don't have to rush, and also I'm looking for something that I want to do and enjoy, and the company's right. I've looked at quite a few, but it hasn't quite worked out. But that's also quite enjoyable, looking at different options.
Of course.
And seeing,
because that's what I guess that's the one thing that you want from financial success, is the fact that it gives you options. That's what we want in life. It does.
You have choices in life. Yeah. You do. You can. You can't.
Yeah, and I think that's what's really interesting. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, look, as always, we sort of finish off with a couple of quick fire questions. So I'm just gonna. First one, what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur or someone wanting to start their own business?
Don't be afraid to fail. I mean, obviously you don't want to lose your house or lose your shirt, but I think don't be afraid to fail. A lot of people I meet in life, and I've got some very good friends, and a couple of good friends, and they were quite high up in the PR industry, financial PR, and I said to them, "Why do you do it on your own? Why do you do this on your own? Because and the both of them have done it on their own. They're making 10 times more than they were. Thanks, Laurence. They do it on their own." And so, a lot of people are afraid to go into business because they're afraid of failure, or they don't want to lose, they lose their house, whatever. Yeah. I had my house on the line with the bank. The bank, said, if you want to borrow the money, Laurence, to grow your business, we want your house. I said, here's my house. So it gets you out of bed in the morning. Gets you out of bed to pay to make sure the bank's paid back. So what advice? You got to be able to. You got to have a vision. Yeah. You've got to look for an angle, and I don't mean that in the wrong way, but you need an angle. Vision and innovation. The key words. The key. You don't want to keep doing the same thing.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And an entrepreneur, and the last thing is, there's no secret about success. Whatever it is in life, it's hard work. And there's a book out there about successful people all have the same habits by Covey, and it's so true. Successful people. I mean, look at Ronaldo. He's 36 years old. He's saving Manchester United. I like the football analogies. Or Roger Federer. Do you think he doesn't work hard? Of course he does. Djokovic. These guys have won 60 majors in last 15 years. It's phenomenal. And it's down to hard work and graft and drive and ambition.
Yeah, I completely agree, and it's something that I certainly want to try and instill with my kids, and that work, because my parents were not so much weren't very entrepreneurial, so I often wonder where that comes from in me. But what they did teach me was they're both very hard workers, my mum and dad. They had strong, really strong work ethic, and they really instilled that at a very young age. So that I would, if I wanted to earn a £10 note, then I'd go and clean the car, or I'd do my mum's
ironing. I helped a friend's son set up a business. I won't say what it is. And he set it up, and the next thing I know, he's on holiday for 2 weeks. I mean, he just set up a business. You can't be on holiday for 2 weeks. Oh no, I can run it from the beach. So, can you? We'll see.
Yeah. That's difficult. So you answered a couple of it, I guess, in there, but I just finally the last one, just the 3 key traits that you think a good business person needs.
Well, I think it's hard work for sure.
Ethic,
work ethic, vision. Be prepared to fail. Yeah. Failure is not a bad thing. It doesn't matter if you fail, as long as you don't lose your house, whatever. You fail. Not 9 out of 10 businesses will fail. I was in the pharmacy business, and I knew that everyone needs their drugs. And I'm opening a late night pharmacy. I knew that people wanted access to medication out of hours. If your kid's screaming at home and they need the Calpol, or one of your kids got an infection, you need some antibiotics. The amount of people who just come to, oh, thank God, you're a lifesaver from all over this earth.
I'm sure.
And be selective and picky. One other thing is be selective and be picky about your advisors.
Okay.
They're very interesting with lawyers and accountants. I've had a few run-ins and had to sue a few of them over the years. You quite often think they're looking after your best interest. Sometimes, not all, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're not. So be very picky, because you do need advice from lawyers and accountants about how to run your business properly and legally and within the proper, financial constraints. So be picky.
Yeah, sure. That's really good. I guess, like you say, so, again, this just links back a lot, I guess, to the whole culture thing for you, and you're surrounding yourself with good people, so people you employ, your clients you work with, all of that type of thing.
Absolutely, but it takes time to build a team. You have to, it's exactly like the football team. You have to get rid of a few people and bring better people in, and they don't. And then as businesses change, as the business grows, the other thing is quite often it outgrows some of the your best staff. You think, actually, you know what? That person there, she can't do that job anymore. So we have to bring better people, and you have to manage that as well, because you've got to bring better people in.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Laurence, look, you've got a wealth, obviously, of knowledge. I'm sure that there'll be, and hopefully a lot of our listeners will listen out and maybe reach out to you, because would love to more advice, because I think it's, as I knew it would be, like the first time I sort of met you and listened to you do the talk, it was really inspiring and fascinating, and you know, someone I look to, and certainly it's been a real pleasure to get to know you a little bit more. And thanks ever so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your journey with us. And I hope you get away on holiday and enjoy some time away. I know you're going this evening, I believe.
I am. I'm going out this evening, flying out this evening. But
amazing.
Sam, absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you.